Well, hello, welcome to Embrace Live. Welcome to another episode. In fact, if I remember rightly and I've counted them up, we're into episode 18. We've been doing this for 18 weeks, thereabouts, okay, with a couple of breaks for the summer and things like that. But welcome, it's great to be here. My name is Dave Dixon. I have the privilege of being part of the team at Embrace Church in Darlington. And, obviously this is Embrace Live. And we started doing this really just because obviously we had lockdown and it was a way to connect with people. And we found that actually we're getting a lot of engagement about different topics and things. It was wonderful to do Alpha Online and things like that. And we just wanted to keep that going, really. And what I really like about this, I mean, I love these sessions, really, because I just get to talk with all my buddies across the Northeast and beyond, really. And, it's great just to be able to kind of share an hour, just to find out a little bit more about them. Obviously their lives, a little bit, who they are and what they're doing in different kind of roles that they are. So, actually we started off with a series and again, please, if you haven't seen these and you get time, go back and have a look at them, maybe watch them, do them and catch up either on our Facebook page or YouTube channel. But we start off with a series called My Story, which is basically people telling about how they came to a decision to follow Jesus themselves. Brilliant series and lots of really interesting stories and circumstances in people's lives that led them to that decision to, follow Jesus, commit their, lives to following him, believing that Jesus is, the Saviour of the world. He died on the cross. He is who he said he was, and he's living today through, his Holy Spirit and again, having that personal, intimate relationship with God, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And so, I really want to encourage you to go back and check those out if you want to. Then we kind of got into a series with different worship leaders and, in terms of roles within church. Now, when we talk about worship generally, the Bible says that's a lifestyle, absolutely. When people are talking about worship in church circles, they're normally meaning about the music side of things. Although, worship can be in many different creative forms and acts of service and so on. So great series. I got to chat with some worship leading buddies, which is an area that I'm really passionate about as well, because I get to do that, which is an absolute privilege. And then, after the summer, we started this series really, which is brilliant, because we're getting to cast the net much wider than Embrace, thankfully. Lots of great people at Embrace Church, but there's lots of great people in the church with a capital C. And I say this every single episode. There is only one church, and that's God's church. Okay, we just have lots of groups of people meeting in different places with different flavors of how they're living out the Bible and we are living out our relationships with one another and most importantly with God and so on. So the important thing is, check out a church near you, even if you don't do the church thing. All right, you might be a person who's just stumbled across this stream or heard, one of your maybe Christian friends talking about their church and so on. Grill them, ask them questions. We'd love to chat with you. If you want to connect with us, please do. We'd love to chat with you. And, we won't bash the Bible over your head. We'll just tell you about how Jesus is making such a huge difference in our lives and what that relationship means to us. And, again, how you can meet Jesus and, for yourself and so on. So things like Alpha courses, are brilliant opportunities. You get food. That's always a winner in my book. And you can see by my slight frame on camera, I'm a big fan of food. But you also then get to grill a Christian and ask some really good questions and stuff like that. So always worth looking out for an Alpha course. If you're not sure where they are, get in touch. We can put you in touch with somebody who's running an Alpha course nearest to you. So in this Leaders series, it's been great so far, to get to hear from people doing a range of things in terms of Christian-based events, organisations, charities, all different kind of things. And I'm really, really pleased that tonight on my other monitor, we've got him there waiting patiently. We've got the wonderful, the one and only, not Chesney Hawkes, but very close, I think, in resemblance, maybe not. Terry Young, Terry, why don't I just come across to you just to say hello? Why don't you say hello to the good people?
Hello, great to be with you all. Excited just to share a bit of life and just talking about what God does in our lives. It's just a great thing, isn't it? Builds encouragement. So yeah,
absolutely.
Love sharing who I am with you all.
Brilliant, thanks, Terry. We're going to come back to you in a moment, but So, listen, we do want to make these sessions interactive. So, just welcome to those people who've joined us online so far. You know, we've got Sue and Bill. Sue and Bill go to Embrace Church, and they're really kind of avid followers of Embrace Live and supporters, which is great. And so, who else? We've got Val. Thanks for joining us, Val, as well. You know, we've got Mike Connolly online as well. So, listen, we do want to make this an interactive session. Great if you've joined us live. Please post those questions and those comments as we go through, because we want to make time to stop and respond to them. Obviously, we want to grill Terry, and I'm sure he's willing to answer as many difficult questions as we can throw at him. He's smiling on my other monitor over here. That's why I keep looking over there. Again, if you are watching this on catch up, and they are available, like I say, via the Embrace Church Facebook page or the Embrace Church YouTube channel, then it's not too late to ask questions. If we can put you in touch with Terry, we can answer your questions via, obviously, Facebook. If you want to do a public comment or DM us, then please do so. And we'd love to answer your questions, all right? Oh, just to say that Mike is speaking on behalf of his good lady wife, and hello from Liz Connolly too, apparently. So welcome the Connollys. There we go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play the leaders intro video, a short video, and then Terry was going to be on screen and we're going to get cracking for tonight. So here we go. Here's the leaders intro. Fantastic. Hello, Terry. How are you doing? You okay, mate?
Hello, Dave. Good to see you again.
Yeah, indeed. It's been a long time, obviously, with that kind of COVID and lockdown, everything kind of got in the way and stuff like that. But it's great that you obviously spend some time with us tonight, and it's great to have you on the show.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Good stuff. Yeah, we'll see what you think about that afterwards, actually. When you say you're looking forward to it now, we'll see what happens. Like I say, we want to make this interactive. So if you've got some questions and comments for Terry or for me, we can post them online, and we'll definitely make time to kind of respond to them and obviously see how we kind of get on. All right. I do think Mike and Liz Connolly are always good for a comment, so I'm looking forward to what they've
Make him nice. Make him nice, Mike and Liz, will you?
I'm sure they make no guarantees about that, but we'll see what happens. There we go. So, Terry, I mean, obviously, I've known you for a little while. Obviously, COVID and restrictions there have slowed things down a little bit, but I've met you a couple of times face-to-face, in person, and I think it was, obviously, I'd heard your name in positive, kind of, situation being mentioned a few times. So it was nice to be able to kind of say, right, okay, finally I've met the guy. That is Terry Young, the one and only, like I say. And
what can I do for you?
Oh, sorry, that's my Siri kicking off. Wow, that's
you can do anything you like, Siri.
There we go. It's amazing. I'm very professional at this. I've turned off everything else, but I keep forgetting about Siri on my watch. So there we go. So I'll, just to kind of say, it's great to kind of meet. I'm just looking at some of these comments already. So, it's good. I'll put it on the screen for you to see there, Terry, that Mike's, already trying to be nice. But, obviously then Liz says, apparently, we're always nice. Apparently. But there we go. Okay. So hopefully they can continue with that, with this is very good. So, like you say, it was good to meet you. I think it was at, if I remember rightly, it was at the Moses Project, one of the Connect events that we finally... kind of bumped into each other and things like that. So, I'm really looking forward to, it's great to hear that Connect events are starting up again. And it's later on in the month, I'm going to be down there. And we had the wonderful Brian and Stella from the Moses Project on the other week, and they were talking about the amazing work there and stuff. So, I can't wait to be kind of doing the thing, safely back in person and things like that. Okay, all be well. So, I mean, obviously, it'd be good to just you know, we know you're Terry, you're young, obviously. Why don't you put yourself into context? Give us a bit of like, you know, your background kind of stuff, and maybe a bit your testimony, your story, really, about how you came to
I'd
know
love
Jesus.
to. So I'm 57 years of age.
Never.
Teesside lad. Never. Shocking, isn't it? Shocking. It's the camera makes it look, you know what I mean? I've got a filter on.
Yeah. I get you.
And so I've been married to Anne for 35 years. Teesside lad. Basically, I've lived on Teesside all my life, really. We had a year away at Bible College, which is a story in itself. But generally, Teesside, born and bred. We've got 7 children, 4 grandchildren, all of them now. The youngest, to put you into context, is the youngest of twin girls who are 21, and they're sort of in different. Our family's now scattered like the diaspora of the people of Israel, sent to the ends of the earth. Now they're all over the place, so it gets a bit more complicated seeing everyone.
Yeah.
I've worked for a big chunk of my life in the chemical industry. I spent 35 years in the chemical industry, and I came in that as a plant cleaner. Ended up a shift manager on the chemical side of things, which was a story in itself. And more presently, I've been working for the Message Trust, which we'll touch on. But my sort of my faith journey, really, I grew up in a Catholic situation, but non-church. So really, it was through the Catholic school. So all the scaffolding of faith was getting built in through schooling system. Yeah, and which was great, because when faith comes, there's a frame for it to sit in very quickly.
Yeah.
But I got a girlfriend when I was 18, and she was 16, and she was a church attending Catholic. Although I wouldn't say she was full on, but she was on the next level from me. Do you know what I mean? I had the scaffold, she had the attendance that went with that. And it was 1984, 38 years ago, 37 years ago. And for those who of a certain age will remember this, there was an evangelist coming on in the UK called Billy Graham, and he was coming to Sunderland Football Stadium, and there was a lot of press stuff about him on the news and that. And I remember walking through the streets of Middlesbrough back from town with my girlfriend, and I remember saying to her, "Oh, hey, look, there was a big poster of this Billy Graham on the side of a building saying, 'Billy Graham, worth listening to.'" And to be frank, I was teasing her, because I said, "Oh, you'll be going to see this fiery preacher, won't you?" Thinking as a good church attending Catholic, she would react against that. And she said, "I haven't a clue who he is." And it was sort of a bit of a wet squib, really, what I was expecting. So she goes home. In her family situation, one of her uncles had become a Christian, fully born again, believing Christian. And his church was organising coaches to Billy Graham. And so he visited the family, said, "Oh, would everybody like to come to see Billy Graham?" My girlfriend's mum and dad said, "Oh, yes, and get Terry a ticket," because apparently, and I hadn't known this, she told her mum and dad that I was a church attending Catholic lad as well.
Right.
So about 7 o'clock at night, I get this phone call saying, "Oh, me mum and dad have got you a ticket to come to Billy Graham." Well, that was not what I was expecting. And shall we say, there was a colourful conversation on the phone, which resulted in me putting the phone down. Definitely, that wasn't something I was going to engage with. Coming from a punk rock background was my background. And so she rang back an hour later, give me the old, "Do you love me?" "Yes." "Would you do anything?" "Yes." "Listen, my mum and dad think you go to church. Please come to Billy Graham." So I got okay.
Emotional blackmail.
Yeah, blackmail. So I end up on this coach going to Billy Graham.
Yeah.
This uncle sat opposite me talking. He's clearly buzzed up that he's got all his family coming to this outreach event. Go there. Find myself singing. Find myself when Billy Graham put an invite to come to walk to the goal mouth on the pitch. I went down. My girlfriend went down. We went there. Give my life to the Lord. Come back.
Amazing.
I start thinking, did I do that? Because everyone else did it. So I said to her, "I want to come back again." So I said, "I'm coming back on the Friday." This was a Wednesday night. Came back on the Friday. And when the invite came, I thought, I don't need to go. I realised that I had made the decision for myself because
Yeah.
I was a bit worried. I'd just got caught up in the mood.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so that was it. May the 30th, 1984, the best thing that ever happened at Roker Park. Me and my girlfriend giving the life, and that girlfriend ended up becoming my wife. That was Anne.
Amazing. Really. So
Yeah.
let me just say, I mean, there's a couple of things. Mike's posted a comment already, and we'll respond to that, which is vital. But let me just say that actually, in my story, I went to Roker Park in '84 as well when I was 14-year-old, and I went with the lads because we thought, right, we're getting down on the pitch here, and I've done an episode where it's my story, getting down on the pitch here. We want to create a bit of bother. Ended up giving my life to Jesus as well.
How
it was just
fabulous is that?
it was
Dave,
amazing.
I knew you from somewhere. When I met you the first time, I thought I recognised him.
Oh yeah,
but
yeah.
Clearly, it was on the pitch at Roker Park.
Absolutely. Mike just wants to clarify something, which is vital at this point in your story. He says, "Punk rock, really? Punk rock?"
Yeah. Sex Pistols, Stranglers, back in the day.
Yeah.
That was it. That was for me. That was my music of choice and my passion.
I'm with you on that one. Hey, we've taken a few boxes here already. We're already, we're connecting. It's great. Yeah. I didn't know this, but this is brilliant. All right. Yeah. Okay. And just to say that he does approve, by the way, Mike does love it so far. Cool. So, punk rock, Catholic girlfriend, emotionally blackmails you to get to come along to Roker Park, end up meeting Jesus, for yourself, and we're going to go back, but you didn't need to because you knew that you had made a commitment, and entered in a real living relationship with Jesus and stuff. What's life been like since then?
Well, right at the beginning. What happened at the beginning pretty much dictated where everything went in the future, really. So right at the beginning, myself and my wife, or a girlfriend at the time, we would start to do a little prayer meeting in a house. She had a boarded out loft, and we held up there. And we ran a youth club in the Catholic Church and took them up there. Yeah. I probably started a number of cults in that room because when I look back on the things I said, in our naivety, we had candles, we had everything playing. Like I remember playing Elvis gospel songs, and then we were just exploring the need to grow in faith, but nobody there to help us grow.
Right.
And then I met Martin and Margaret Ruddock, which I'm assuming you might probably know them.
I do, yeah.
Yeah. So at that time, they were in the Catholic Church, and they came and started meeting with us, and we just started. He could play the guitar. We started worshiping, and they were bringing fairly decent theology in.
That's reassuring.
Into the context of my cult forming gathering.
Hang on a minute, let's clarify. You said fairly decent theology. But better than where you were.
Yeah, I think that back in the day, I'm sure there's things that they've moved ground on. Yeah. But they were closer to mainline stuff than I was. That was for sure.
Good.
And together we were just worshiping and the whole and like believing, and they'd been baptized in the Spirit, and we've just something happened. It was a God thing.
Yeah.
I had a mate who I went to college with who'd become faith at the same time at Roker Park, Pete Conroy. You'll know Pete Conroy.
Yeah.
So Pete Conroy came to this meeting. So there was me, Martin and Margaret, Anne, Pete Conroy, and another lad called Julian Harrop, who's part of a church in Sunderland. And we start meeting, and maybe in the course of a year, this group of 6, we got up to about 40 or 50.
Wow.
And we didn't know, we hadn't a clue what we were doing. We would meet, we'd worship, and we'd pray. And people were just coming. God was just bringing people, young people. And we called ourselves Unity Fellowship because half of the people were already connected into a church. So we created a unity gathering.
Yeah.
But really, in that, I remember the curate at St. Barnabas in Parkinson came to see us. And we were meeting at the time in Pete Conroy's flat, which is above St. Barnabas Church Hall. And this Ian came and says, "Look, people are telling us they think there's a church meeting here." He said, "What do you mean a church?" Look, all we do is Saturday night, because that's when we met, we worship. We invite a couple of speakers occasionally.
Yeah.
Said on Tuesdays, we do like a prayer meeting. Wednesdays, Bible study. Saturday mornings we do outreach, and we have a new believers group. And he said, "Yeah, there's a church meeting in this building."
Yeah.
Whoa, and that proper spooked us out. So we eased back on some of that. But really, that set really a course for me and Anne, and obviously Martin and Margaret and Pete.
Yeah.
That actually, that God had really put some degree of leadership call in our lives, even though we hadn't a clue about it. Because we were, you know what I mean? In our mess, we were doing something that was right. And I think God was okay with the mess because he saw our hearts.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and in fact, we probably got more wrong when we thought we knew what we were doing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that just began a journey, really, of really full on following Jesus and want to see people won for Christ and believing that God had beautiful things for the Tees Valley and beyond, really. And on the back of that, found myself, I was working at ICI at the time. The irony is, just in passing, for all those people who like yourself, Dave, investing in people in schools and that, I got in my qualifications at school, 2 things I got unclassified in when I came to my exams. That was religion and chemistry. And the 2 things I've spent my life doing is working in the chemical industry and being connected and following Jesus.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah. So I just say that if you're balking any subjects at school, be careful. That could be your life pattern. And so I, through a miracle, like ICI sent me to Bible college for a year, full pay,
really?
shift allowance. Yeah. They did this thing called adult development scheme, and I just think when you read through stories, I'm reading this book at the moment on William Catherine Booth, absolutely epic. But you realize actually when you start looking at your own life, there's miracles happening all around. It's not just in other people. So ICI at the time used to employ about 25,000, 30,000 people across Teesside. And they did a thing called the Adult Development Scheme, which basically six people a year got the chance to do 5 or 6 weeks off doing something. Could be learning sign language intensive course or something. And I was sat in the control room and my boss walked in and he says, "Oh, yeah, Terry, the Adult Development Scheme's on the go. You're interested?" Now, what had happened, before this, is 3 months previously, I'd been at Spring Harvest and walked into the big top, for those who know what I mean by the big top at Spring Harvest. And as I'm walking in, we've just moved house, just had our 3rd kid. Anne's back in the chalet, and my heart was pounding, and God was saying, I knew God was going to ask me to do something that was really difficult, and I had to do it. And in that meeting, God said, leave work, go to Bible college. So I came back, told the wife. She didn't have the same revelation, shockingly. Anyhow, so that was that conversation. So 2-3 months later, I'm in the control room. My boss walks in and says, "Terry, adult development schemes up. You're interested in applying?" And I just said like this. I just said, "I'd like to go to Bible college in Scotland for 9 months with my family." And he went, "Something you're interested in, qualification, training, fill the form in." Like everybody said, this ain't happening. I filled the form in, got invited to an interview with 6 people who were high-fiving, laughing and joking, not intense. Came out of that interview, and about 2 weeks later, my boss's boss phones me at home and says, "Terry, you've been successful. You're going to a Bible college." I got full pay, condition money, shift allowance, bonus, plus £2,000 towards the fees.
Wow.
And my job kept open for when I came back. Now, that to me, that's absolute miracle.
That's incredible. Yeah.
Through Bible college by a chemical company. Now, I'm at Bible college with my pay slips arriving. There's a family from Canada who've sold their house to pay for themselves to come. That was a miracle story. I preferred mine, though.
I was going to say, because my dad works at ICI for ages and for years, and I think the only thing he got out of it, if I remember rightly, was a couple of plastic kind of salt and pepper pot dispensers. Never mind Bible college and paid and all that kind of thing. So
it all depends. If you ask, you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, when you play the blinder there.
I said to the lads who were all teasing me at the time. Yeah. Can I tell you a little funny story? I don't know if you remember. Many years ago, there was thing at Waco in Texas where this cult were there, and there was a big sort of thing. Well, all the lads thought I was going to Waco. I was going up to Scotland to join this cult, and they were going, they won't let you go. Waco's just happened. They're not going to give you permission to go there, you know. And so yeah, it was great.
That's amazing.
And that really built stuff in me. So then when I came back, I very quickly, I think, you know, God puts a DNA in you to do certain stuff. And like, you need everybody to make the kingdom of God work. And some people in that everybody are leaders, and some are great administrators. And do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's not one better gift than the other. They're just
absolutely
different
not.
gifts.
Yeah.
But I can't run away from the fact that God had put leadership in me. So like I knew that like by default, whatever I was doing, it ended up somehow I was leading something. You know, like I started as a plant cleaner, I become a shift manager and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And so I was on this, come out of Bible college, and in the context of the church I was a part of, I fairly quickly got placed into leadership. And so I'd been generally in an eldership setting now for about 25 years in various situations, and love it. Love the people of God. Love what God's got for the Tees Valley and beyond. It's absolutely epic.
Amazing.
So, yeah, a few stories, ramblings.
That's fantastic. Wow. You know, I mean, that's an incredible story. I love that, you know, just how God provides these opportunities and, you know, kind of calling you to do, you know, big decisions in your life, you know, to kind of leave work, but then, you know, provides a way for you to do just that.
Yeah, well, I think God saw my heart.
Yeah.
And he made a way that actually helped both of us come to that. Although, but we'd made that decision. I don't know how we were going to do it, but, you know.
Yeah. I love the way you said that God, you know, obviously puts his DNA in us, and, you know, we're all gifted in lots of different ways, and absolutely totally agree that, you know, no gift is more important than any others. But, you know, like you say, some are called to maybe be at the front, some are called just as much to be in the background, serving just as much and valuably and things like that. So, you know, again, it's brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, that kind of gives us a bit of context of who you are. You know, like you say, I'm going to find out all sorts. Punk rock, we approve of that, Mike in particular, you know, Roker Park, both went with, you know, ulterior motives and ended up meeting Jesus and making commitments and, you know, giving him our lives and dedicating our lives. That's brilliant, love it. And then, you know, my dad was at ICI, you were at ICI. My dad got a salt and pepper pot. You got to go and do Bible college for 9 months, fully paid. That's incredible. So you mentioned the message, and obviously that's an organisation that you're involved with, and you said you've been called to leadership in lots of different ways, and you've served in lots of different circumstances. You mentioned eldership, and if people aren't familiar with what eldership is, it, you know, again, spiritual leadership, oversight of a church and place in there, and there's lots to do with that. So how did you get in touch, or how did you get involved, should I say, with the message? How did that come about?
Yeah. So I'd been sort of a senior leader for a while at one church, and we handed that leadership over to another guy, Steve McFarlane. You'll know Steve, man. And we stepped out of that church and placed ourselves in Tees Valley Community Church. Yeah. So a partnership church, but for all sorts of reasons. Sometimes you just need to give people the space to flourish in their world and not be mixed up in that. So we moved across there, and part of their sort of like transition as we moved into Tees Valley Community Church, they had a number of projects called Eden projects that they'd been running for a number of years. And so Martin Dunkley, the senior pastor, said, like, you know, Eden knew that like a lot of my sort of church life had been built around inner city church. Yeah. And a big chunk of Tees Valley Community Church might be more middle class. Yeah. But also obviously got other elements that create that beautiful collective mix of the people of God of different economic situations, different cultural situations. And he just said, you know what, I think you do as good looking after that aspect of our church. So I picked up the line management of the Eden team leaders. Tony Grange, Pete Conroy, and Paul Connor, and so I started getting connected into Eden, through the message, through that aspect of ministry.
Right.
Which, for those who don't know, Eden would be an aspect of partnership that the message do with a local church, where they together agree to plant a bunch of urban missionaries into a part of the town or city that falls into the bottom 10% of the economic deprivation statistics,
Yeah.
to help crystallize a real community transformation.
Yeah.
Um,
Terry,
and
you
so,
mentioned Tony Grange. I've actually got
yeah.
him lined up to come up on either
Cool.
next week or the week after. So we're going to hear a lot about
Good
his
stuff.
involvement in Eden as well, which is great.
And so like that was like some of the was birthed right at the beginning for the message, and that was so being involved with that. I found myself then getting connected in with the broader aspect of the message, because suddenly I found myself going up to headquarters, which I'll. Do you want me just to tell you a little bit about the message?
Yeah, please, yeah.
So maybe so that I began to connect with the message. Now, this is what I start discovering about the message. So really was that the message started 28 years ago, pushing towards 30 years. And it didn't really start as a message. It started as Andy Hawthorne and his brother.
Yeah.
And they had some businesses, but they just had a heart for the youth that they were seeing that seemed to not find a place in church life and be lost in Manchester. So they were looking at various things. And one of the things they did, they said, let's start a band and go into schools. And they started a band called the Worldwide Message Tribe.
Oh, yes.
Jumping in the House of God is a song that a certain generation know.
Yeah.
And they went in very raw with a sense of, what's the word I would say? It's like unashamedly evangelistic movement into schools of young people. And they began to see people responding to the gospel when this culturally relevant, creative mission band was going into schools, doing the music that the kids were listening to, but then proclaiming there is a savior that you can follow that can change your world.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of excitement happening around Andy and his brother and what was happening with the band. And the band were like really taking off, but they knew that God had called them to Manchester. And on the back of that, they moved into some more things called the Eden teams, and these urban missionaries planted into a place in Wythenshawe, the first Eden team. And that become a model. So you had creative music and urban missionary plants into communities, and it was all happening around Manchester. But obviously, when God's moving, people start thinking, we want a bit of that. We want to see God doing that here.
Yeah.
And so there was something about what Andy and them were doing over there. And the branded themselves as the Message Trust. And actually ministries just started growing. They got people working in prisons. They got more formal school workers going on, and variety of different ministries happening. And it was all happening around Manchester. Then there was a call to say, well, can we do an Eden team here? Can we do this here? And obviously the Eden teams start planting out across the UK. And now there's Eden teams in some of the nations in Europe and Canada. And you saw this movement, but actually it was going to get challenged, as in it can't all just be run from Manchester, because the further you get away, the stretch and the support mechanism gets like more challenging. So in recent years, they decided to say, let's get some regional hubs. And in 2019, November, they said to us, they said, we want to set a hub up in the Northeast. And so I was in the loop of that conversation, and I just thought, do you know what? I love my job in the chemical industry, working with the guys. I love raw life. Do you know what I mean? But I just thought, I've probably got one big push left in me. Do you know what I mean? I was, thinking like, yeah, I can go for a new challenge as long as I want to do it.
Yeah.
And I can give a good run at something for one more go on this. And so I
Terry,
put
why
my
am I
notice in.
suddenly transported to like Rocky Balboa film? You know, where he's getting on a bit, but I've still got one more.
I've still got
match.
one. Yeah,
I love it.
yeah,
I love it.
yeah. And I put my notice in and start working for the Message in November 2019. And but what was great, I was the hub. I needed an ops manager. Got my buddy Darren Scott. You know Darren.
Yeah, great fella.
And I've journeyed with Darren for like, do you know what I mean? He's my mate, working on mission, mates on mission together. How fab was that?
Yeah.
And I remember we both went down for our interview. So we're in like t-shirts and that, and we had these suits in the car for the interview. And we drove and we went down this side street just around the corner from the headquarters, getting stripped off in the street, putting our suits on. And I'm like, oh, we were so pumped up. We went in, had our interviews, and we're driving home, not knowing. Like, we both set our hearts, we want to do this. And then Sam Ward, my like sort of Andy Hawthorne's right hand man, phones us, told us we'd got the job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
On speakerphone. Oh, honest, we're like two little kids who just got the big computer game they'd been desperate for Christmas. Yeah, like that. We were proper like we'd gone back in time. We forgot we were 50-odd-year-olds. We were screaming like kids. We were so pumped up. And so that's November 2019. Great. We're all for it. Now, obviously, things were in place when we come in for the UK, and they were doing what was going to be called a hire tour. And the hire tour was they were going into 18 cities around the UK, and each time they were in a city, there was 3 creative mission bands coming in. They were going to go into the schools, into 6 schools for a full week. The impact in the stats were saying we were probably going to engage with 120, 140,000 kids around the UK.
Wow.
And at the end of the week, you would hire in like a music venue. So we had one lined up in Sunderland, big music venue there. And it was just going to be like a 3,000 attendee youth gospel creative band night. And so all that was lined up. January 2020, Andy, on our monthly prayer days, just casting the vision. This is what 2020 holds for us. 18 cities, 140,000 kids. And like 5 weeks later, we're all told we can't go out of our house.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'll tell you. Right. So me and Darren thinking, what do we do? Everything we do has been shut down.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to Darren, because everybody got put on furlough, and they basically said, you're all on furlough unless there's a reason why you don't need to be. And I said to Darren, I says, like, mate, let's get together. I says, the gospel's still going out. The gospel still needs to go out. God's still on the front foot. It's just what we had planned we can't do. So what do we do that we're going to do differently?
Yeah.
We put a plan together and said, we want to come back. We had all these thoughts. And so we came back off furlough because I just thought, you know what? I'm not after a holiday. I'm here on a mission.
Yeah.
The mates on the mission. We want the gospel to go out. People need to hear about Jesus. We've just got to find other ways of how do we do that. And one of the things we do with the messages is we have these values, you know, and one is passion. Passion for the gospel, as that is the gospel is what people need.
Yeah.
Of all things. And but we have a passion for local church as well. So we're not to replace local church. We're to serve local church. The message is about what can we do to serve Embrace, to serve Tees Valley Community Church, to help you get your gospel message out there so that the people that you can take hold of and disciple. And we believe in innovation. That's another thing that we're passionate about. And so I just thought there's reason we can get alongside church. We can think of ways, and we explored things. Now, what was helpful was in terms of the message themselves. Do you know, like you have a plan? You know, like Abraham thinks he's. No, I won't do the Abraham because. But what I'll do is, Paul has a plan. He's setting off on a mission.
Yeah. And
God brings him a man from Macedonia, an angel, and say, come over here. Now, it's good to have a plan. It's good to be on a mission, and it's good to keep listening.
Yeah.
right? Because God might just deposit something into your world that you didn't know was there,
Yeah.
but your heart's open to hear. If God, I always have the viewers, look, God, I need to be doing something. I'm doing this. You know my heart. Please speak to me if it's something different. And God gave the message something different. They discovered, they fell into really these community groceries that we do. And that was just like, that was never on the radar. That wasn't in the program. Nobody had even thought about this at the beginning of 2020. We were doing citywide, big, massive mission tours. And in our centre offices, they had loads of buildings that really were empty. So they created food bank. And then somebody said, what about opening a community grocery shop? And they connected up with all these people who had food to give away. And they opened up our very first community grocery shop. And we weren't quite sure what that would do. I mean, we were obviously in the Northeast. We were just hearing what they were doing. And it was like a gift from God. God's heart for people through hard times.
Yeah.
But one of the things for us is the message, because we're unashamedly an evangelistic movement we were committed. This is not just about feeding people. This is a vehicle for people to find food that will give them an eternal life. And so the next thing that happened, some funding came for the Northeast to say, and you can have 3 shops in the Northeast, but you have to spend the money by March, right? So we get the money come through in September, October. By March in the Northeast, we'd opened up 3 community grocers.
Fantastic.
In Ragworth, in Redcar, in Hexham. And all 3 of them were positioned initially alongside an Eden team. So it was really joining up thinking. And when we partner with the church on our community grocers, like and I think this is an amazing gift that not a lot of things happen like this, is we come to a partner church and say, if you want to open a community grocer, we will pay for a shop manager. We will pay for an assistant manager. We will supply the food. What we ask you is give us a place that we can put our shop in. Maybe pay the electric bill.
Yeah.
And promise that you will run courses that include alpha courses or journeys to Christianity courses, where we want to give you a footfall of people to love on and to share the gospel with, and we can feed them and we can bless them, but we want them to meet Jesus in the end. It's just been amazing. So I've got another 3 opening up in the Northeast. I've got 1 coming in Middlesbrough, 1 in Newcastle, and 1 in Gateshead in the next 3 or 4 months.
Fantastic.
So we'll have 6. So I went into lockdown with me, Darren, and Joe Wintersladen, who's the Respect Me worker, schools worker. I've now got 14 people in the Northeast team on lockdown, and it's just fab. It's just fab that the sense of God is always on the front foot. You just got to hear him. It's like COVID comes, and in that we've discovered something we probably as a movement wouldn't have discovered without COVID.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't wipe away any of the pain and mess that comes with COVID. I'm just saying is whatever the difficulties is, God can be found in the mix of it. And sometimes we just got to learn to listen to it. And for us as the message, this was an amazing thing that we feel is a real blessing to local churches.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've just talked a lot there, Dave. So
no, that's amazing. I mean, it's great. Obviously, a good sign, I think, even though we want to make these sessions interactive, is that actually people aren't posting very much. I mean, other than thankfully Leslie has just basically posted 3 times. Clapping, loves obviously what you've been saying and then hearing, and then our good friend Mike as well. Mates on a mission. That's it's almost a line, isn't it? It sounds a lot like the Blues Brothers. We're on a mission from God, kind of stuff.
Amen.
I think I'm showing my age again there. Just one of these things I'm quoting, but I know that the Worldwide Message Tribe. When you mentioned them, I was involved in an event called Harvest, not Spring Harvest. Another event that happened in the Northeast where we would invite bands and so on, and the Worldwide Message Tribe featured there, and I know there were really fantastic evenings. There were outreach kind of evenings, and and so on. I tell you what, though, I remember because my good lady wife, she was involved with doing the hospitality for the the bands and things like that.
Yeah,
And it's legendary just how much food the Worldwide Message Tribe went through in terms of the hospitality stuff. And then you thought, blimey, they can eat. But then you see the actual act and on the stage, and myself and others as well in the site team. I think that was the evening when we're trying to kind of have this steel structure of a stage that had been fashioned out of these biggest girders I've ever seen. But they were dancing around so much it was shaking when we're trying to, batten things down and moving and stuff like so. Absolutely amazing. So they were great, and it's great to hear. Again, like you said, quite and it's your passion's clear. I mean, I know you said that it's one of your values as as the organisation. It's clear, Terry. We can see that, and I know that within Darren and so on. Just how much you're passionate, and what you said about God is on the front foot all of the time, that we can think COVID comes along and just seems to scupper plans, but actually God was doing different things. All right, okay, this is the situation. What we're going to do new is this, and obviously being open to that as an organisation, and to hear your role and how the team is expanding. Obviously in the Northeast with the community grocery stores and stuff like that. I've just again. These are things that you can follow on social media and so on, and I've done so, and it's great to see that little bit in action. I wonder. You talked a little bit about that. What's kind of been the impact then? Have you got any kind of stories from the maybe some of the things like the grocery stores or something?
Yeah,
in terms of lives and things.
Yeah, I think I'll give you one, and it's always best to home in onto an individual.
Yeah,
because you can just talk numbers.
Yeah.
But I think it's like, in the end, it's like numbers ultimately are a collection of people, and seeing someone's life change.
Yeah.
Like ours was, Dave. Do you know what I mean? And so I was shopping in Ragworth. There's actually if you ever have you ever been over to the Shack in Ragworth or not?
I haven't. I've seen pictures and stuff, but I've never actually made it across, unfortunately.
So the Shack, context-wise for people would be, the Shack was an old church building.
Yeah.
That had been derelict, and what happened is part of Tees Valley Community Church were looking to do Eden and things like that over in that part of Stockton, and they ended up taking on that building for a peppercorn fee, I think it was always given to them.
Yeah.
It took a lot of money to refurb it, and that was where the Eden team was based. And so the Eden team in Ragworth is made up of, it's been running for about 8 years now, 7 or 8 years, and everybody on that team was not on the team when it started. The team was people who'd moved into the area, and now that team is made of people who've come to faith on that estate, and the team is now people of the soil, and the original people have moved on. And so you see here, and that's what you want, isn't it? That's what you want. You go into a perceived barren desert and seeing seeds coming to birth out of the soil that have been buried in there, and so this team. So Paul Connor, who you'll know, Big Paul, who leads the team there now, he got ministered to through the Eden teams, and with Pete Conroy ministering and discipling him, and so he came. So he's now leading the Eden team. This team are there. So we then want to get a community grocery. So we bring this community grocery, and for those who don't know, they're different in different areas, but the one in Ragworth was basically a porter cabin, 40 foot by 12 foot. Placed next to this building at the Shack. We all kitted out. I mean, it doesn't look like a porter cabin. It's a beautiful building. It's got all wood paneling on, and inside's rustic, and it's a beautiful place. And so we have a shop now, community grocery, and we have the Shack and the Eden team. And this guy, Bernie, came to the shop on his motor scooter, ex-military guy. Not good on his feet, travels on his motor scooter, started coming to the community grocery. Yeah. And there's something beautiful about this place, something different. I enjoyed coming here. And he was just getting loved on by the volunteers and the staff. And then And a lot of the Eden team workers are volunteering, and you know what I mean. It's a mix. It's Eden stroke community grocer, and he was just loving it. And then from Manchester, we have a year out team called the Academy, and they came. 6 of them came over on a mission. And so one Sunday, we had a Sunday service in this shack building, and they'd gone the day before and cleaned Bernie's garden up, right? Do something what we call love where you live.
Yeah.
And they just blessed him, prayed for him, and invited him to the Sunday service. He comes to the Sunday service on his motor scooter, comes in, sits there. One of these young people who are on the year out gets the job of preaching the message that morning. And Bernie gives his life to Jesus.
Amazing.
And he gives his life to Jesus, gets prayed with. And now every morning, because before the shop opens, we do like 10-minute devotion. Someone shares scripture, and then they'll pray as a team about the people coming that day.
Yeah.
Every morning, Bernie's up on his scooter, boom, there in devotions, praying with everyone. And what I love about that particular story is it's like there's Eden, there's grocery,
Yeah.
there's love where you live mission to clean houses and gardens, and then there's these academy students come over, and it's almost this like perfect storm of love that's being poured out into Bernie's world.
Yeah.
And someone presents the beautiful story of Jesus for him, and he says, I want that. And there's a man at the end of his days.
Yeah.
When I said that sounds awful, I don't mean he's about to die. I'm on about like he's late on in life.
Yeah.
And he discovers the Savior. And this Sunday, because they do monthly services there, he's up at the front giving his testimony in the shack about him finding Jesus and how his world has been turned upside down. And someone else is listening to it and is overwhelmed. They didn't give their life to the Lord, but they're overwhelmed by the story of Bernie. And I just love that because it's one man's life, but how that collective mix of different people sewing into that takes somebody on that journey. I think people are born into the kingdom on a collective journey of people investing in them in various ways. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. So that's Bernie's story, but them stories can be replicated all over the place.
I was going to say that I'm sure there's many more examples, and not just obviously in the northeast in our area, but UK wide and so on. Again, it's amazing. But I love that example, like you say, of all of these. You described it as a perfect storm of all of this. Loving on Bernie and the other people in the area. Just want to post this that that Derek has said. It's awesome, and again, you should be very proud of yourselves, and and yes, practically serving and loving people, but again, motivated by demonstrating practically, and I love that phrase, love where you live, that kind of action, in demonstrating that in lots of different ways, and meeting real needs, practically as well, demonstrating God's love for that, for people. Okay, it's amazing. Yeah. Listen, I mean, as always, the hour seems to go really, really quickly. Time speeds up, I'm sure, with Embrace Live. Yeah. And, there's just always so much more we can talk about. And, it's been great just spending a bit of time with you, Terry, and just, you can see, you said that, those values about, innovation and things like that. Yes, but passion, and that's clearly coming through. And I know that is shared by the team, and actually that passion translates into action, which is great. And so how do people then, if they're thinking, hang on, I want to know more about the message, I want to know more about these Eden teams, these growth project, love where you live, all of that, how do people then get in touch with you? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to jump across to this screen, which has got some contact details on there, as you can see. And they're generally the ones I've just grabbed from the message page and stuff. But how can people, Terry, get in touch maybe with you or whatever and say, right, hang on, I really feel a calling and a longing to be involved in this stuff?
Yeah. So that them connect points would take you to our central message site. And there's some great things to look at on there. And if you visit the site, visit anywhere like that, message them. There's so much more. You can be added to our mailing lists where you'll just can have things sent to you, just updating you through emails, all the beautiful stories that are happening right across the message.
Yeah.
I think also if you want to find out what's happening in the Northeast,
Yeah.
you can. We have a Facebook group page called Gospel Encounters Northeast.
Yeah.
And it's a bit funny. We don't call it the Message Northeast because we want to have one national message page.
Yeah.
And so rather than the confusion, we've called ourselves Gospel Encounters Northeast.
Right, I
You
see.
can
Because
visit that.
I was going to put that on, to be honest, but I thought I know because I know that you post regularly to that. I'm thinking, is that connected or is that something slightly separate? So thanks for clearing that up.
It also allows us to go a bit rogue with the quality of
that explains a lot. Yeah, love it.
So it's a bit more of a raw end of that. That's how we want to connect with people. So if you went to Gospel Encounters Northeast, you can message us on there, leave a Facebook page.
Yeah.
I think a message. I'm sure if anybody wanted to post a comment in here asking for somebody to connect with us, David, I'm sure you'd sort of direct us and connect.
Absolutely would.
Way.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah.
I think that's a thing. I think what I would say is in terms of there's a couple of things I'm not ashamed to say. There's a couple of ways that people can really work and partner with us as we partner with the gospel in local churches. I'll start at the one that we always put at the end. I'm going to say finances.
Yeah.
Right. That we're a charity.
Yeah.
And so like when we serve, we're coming in there to serve, but all that has a cost.
Yeah.
And if people would be interested, like I have a view is this: for the price of a muffin and a coffee once a month, you can have a partnership in this beautiful adventure that I've been talking about. £6 a month, do that. You want to give more, give more. And again, I think anybody who's interested in wanting to look at that as an exploration, if you message Dave and you can join us together.
Yeah.
Or find me on Facebook, and I'll send you a link where you can look at doing that. But I look at it, £6 a month. That's a muffin and a coffee in Costa once a month, and you can partner into seeing these groceries opening up, seeing all these different things that are taking place. That's the one people usually stick at the end.
They do, yeah.
But I'm putting that at the front end.
Yeah.
It's a great thing to do.
Yeah.
But again, as a movement, prayer is massive to us. It's so massive to us that once a month, everybody across the message go to Manchester for a full day of prayer and sharing about what God's doing in us. We get paid one day a month to travel to Manchester. We get the community grocery managers up there. We get everybody there because actually this is about God and what God's doing. And the day we think we can do it without him, do you know what I mean? It's going to either go horribly wrong or we're not going to see the miracles.
Yeah.
So prayer is a key foundation. And anybody who'd love to join us, we have a prayer email. So again, and that one would be some of the, if you're connected to them, national addresses. If not, if you don't get hold of me, you can sign up for a prayer update of what's happening on that and join us praying for what God's doing. And do you know what? God is doing beautiful things with lots of different ministries. We're not the end of everything. We do what we do, and other people do what they do, and together something wonderful gets painted across the Northeast. That's our area.
Yeah,
we're about the Northeast, really, right up to Hexham and beyond there. That we want to see the stories written about what God is doing in the Northeast. I love what God's doing in Korea. I love what God's doing in London. But you know what? I want to hear stories of people who've got investment in terra firma in the Northeast as well, because this is a beautiful place. It's full of fantastic people, and there's God's moving and his youth for Christ. Oh, I mean, I could list loads of different things.
Yeah.
So I'm not one bit saying we're above it. We're just part of the picture that God is doing with the gospel in the Northeast. And what a day to be alive. What a day. And the best thing is, Dave, right? Me and you and everybody listening, we didn't pick the day to be alive. because we can't control who our parents are, and we can't control where we were born.
Yeah.
That was all in God's economy. He thought, what a day, what a place to put Dave and Terry on planet Earth, get them there, because they're my men at that time. So I rejoice in the fact that I wasn't born 30 years ago or in 20 years' time. I rejoice that the wise, all-powerful God, in his wisdom, says, I want Terry on planet Earth, this time, this place, doing this stuff. And man, that's an encouragement. Anyhow, I went off back a bit there, but yeah. Anyhow, sorry, mate.
That's great. I mean, that, you know, again, that just, I totally love it. And just Mike Connolly's very kindly, I'll just add that there, just as put the link to, like you mentioned earlier, the Gospel Encounters Northeast as well. So that's kind of, if you like, your area to be the message-ish and go a little bit rogue, and you know that's all right. That's okay. Yeah. So that's amazing. Listen, Terry, I mean, like you say, I'm loving listening to you and just hearing your heart and your passion, and I know many of the people that you've mentioned, you know, are very similar, you know, and again have actually just that same passion really to practically, you know, love on people and demonstrate the love of God and change lives and change communities, you know, through that. And you know, you do right, actually, mate, you know, again, because the reality is, I know people leave finance to the last often, but you know, this is a reality. You know, this you're hearing people, honestly, as we're tuning in and listening to this, we're hearing the impact that this, you know, the message is having, and you know, particularly in the Northeast, we want, like you say, more stories like that, and more opportunities to demonstrate practically the love of God to people who don't know Him, and you know. We want more Bernies, you know, and things. So that needs money. So, you know, please do consider supporting financially, and of course prayer as well. And so, get in touch, you know, with Terry and the team if you want to be involved, and I'm sure they'd love to, you know, chat more with you. If you just want to leave a message, if you want to direct a message us as well, then we can put you in touch with Terry that way. Or I'll just put it on the screen again, actually, just to say that, you know, head over to Gospel Encounters Northeast for the Northeastern flavour. But remember, if I jump across to just there again, like, let me just remove that from the screen. Oh, that's interesting. There we go. Sorry about that. Just, you know, there's obviously more the national kind of contact details and things. And so, you know, please do get in touch. Find out more. Find out how you can support financially, practically, prayer support, etc. Terry, it's been amazing, mate. I knew it would go really quickly.
Yeah,
have you enjoyed it?
Great talking about Jesus, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It is.
Hey,
it is.
Can I just say as well, I want to thank you for your all that time and energy in the harvest as well.
Bless you,
because my daughter met her husband at harvest.
Right.
And so people like you serving, making harvest happen, create destiny for my daughter and my grandchildren.
Amazing. Do you know what? It is absolutely humbling to hear, you know, so many stories, it seems, where harvest features in there, you know. I'm not, you know, and it is absolutely humbling, and you know, a little bit of my experience when I, you know, eventually, you know, started off being a steward and getting involved that way, and you know, further down the line, I ended up being the chairman and you know, running, you know, the kind of thing. I mean, I would just be in tears at the back, out of tears of joy, that is, just watching all of these young people at the back of the venue having an amazing time worshiping God and meeting Jesus, you know, for the, you know, at that time as well. So it's totally humbling, you know, still those stories, and you know, obviously that's just with my time, you know, blessed the amazing people who were part of the team and put it all together, and you know, clearly it wasn't just one person, and you know, it's a huge team and the volunteers and everything else. So yeah, it's amazing to hear what God was doing through Harvest, amongst other things as well. So thanks for mentioning that. That's great. You know, I really appreciate that. Listen, we're going to stop there because otherwise we will go on all night. And you know, again, if people want to know, if you want to get in touch with Terry, drop her a message. I'll put it on one more time because this is a more local kind of group on Facebook. If you want to use Facebook for that, obviously like the Message Trust page so you can keep in touch with the national stuff. But if you want the local stuff as well and get in touch with Terry, you can do it that way. So thanks, Mike, for kind of adding that link for us.
Cheers,
and putting it on there. And I'm just going to put Mates on a Mission again. I love that idea. and so on. Okay, so tune in next week, everyone. I'm just going to go back to this view. Just tune in next week to, the next instalment. Like I said earlier, and Terry mentioned him about the amazing Tony Grange, who runs one of the Eden projects. We've got him coming up. I've booked him to come on and share his story and what's happening over there and that Eden project in particular. He's an amazing fellow, so tune in next week at 8 o'clock for another Embrace Live. Thanks for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. Listen, if you want to find out more about Embrace Church, then I'll just let me flash the kind of usual kind of social media channels on our website on there if you want to kind of follow us and so on. This episode will be uploaded tomorrow to our YouTube channel, so if you want to kind of head over there, and you can follow us in the kind of usual kind of ways on Twitter and so on. It's been great to have you with us. Thank you for Terry again. He's what an amazing guy he is, and like I said, he's the one and only. But thank you for your passion and everything, Terry. It's been great to spend that time with you. And have a good week. Take care. See you next week. Thank you. Bye bye.